People used to hit life milestones a whole lot faster. Go back a couple of generations, and most people in their early 20s were already married, raising kids, and managing a household. While I was spending half my day grinding away on video games in high school, guys my age back then were literally getting deployed to combat zones. My own great-grandfather was working tough manual labor in the Midwest as a teenager, and by 20, he'd packed up his entire life to take a gamble on a construction job halfway across the country. Growing up, whenever I looked at people in their late 20s, I pictured composed, capable adults who had everything figured out, people with absolute direction and self-discipline. But now that I'm 25, I look in the mirror and realize I don't feel like the grown-ups I idolized. Deep down, I still feel like a clueless kid winging it, and I'm starting to wonder if that ever actually goes away. If you've ever had that exact thought, you know what I'm talking about. You hold down a job, pay your bills, and handle your business. But beneath the surface, it feels like you're playing dress-up in an adult suit, secretly hoping nobody calls your bluff. I kept waiting for some defining moment where a switch would flip and I'd suddenly feel like a man. I thought it might happen at 18 when the government legally classified me as an adult, but nothing shifted, other than gaining the right to vote for whichever politician gets to send people to war. Then came 21. I could legally order a drink, but I didn't feel any wiser. Even getting my first full-time job just felt like an odd, elaborate routine that happened to put money in my bank account. Now I'm 25, and that mythical adult feeling still hasn't hit. It turns out this is pretty normal. Surveys show nearly 6 out of 10 adults admit they don't consistently feel like real grown-ups, with many saying the feeling didn't even begin to settle in until their late 20s or 30s. So if you're floating through your 20s or 30s feeling like an imposter in an adult schedule, you aren't broken, and you're definitely not alone. Here's the catch. That moment you're waiting for, where you wake up and suddenly feel like a mature, fully realized adult, isn't going to happen on its own. You have to actively build it. The internal shift doesn't come from waiting around. It comes from understanding why we feel this way and making deliberate changes. I used to tell myself that 25 was the magic number. I assumed the mental fog would clear, everything would fall into place, and I'd finally step into manhood. But when 25 actually arrived and I blew out the candles, nothing felt different. The only real change was that my hangover tolerance plummeted and late afternoon caffeine started ruining my sleep for days. A birthday is just a number on a calendar. It's a symbolic marker, not a transformation. Adding a year to your age doesn't magically change who you are. What I was actually missing was a rite of passage. For almost all of human history, society had clear boundaries separating childhood from adulthood. You crossed a distinct line, and from that point on, your community treated you differently. Every culture had its own version, but the framework was consistent. You faced a tough, often intimidating challenge, survived it, and returned as a different person. Everyone around you acknowledged that transformation. You don't have to look far back to see this in action. For many men in the last century, being drafted into service was the brutal event that forced them to grow up. They left home as teenagers and returned as veterans, earning a lifelong level of respect from their communities. For others, it was entering the workforce at 15 or 16 to help support the family. The moment you brought home a paycheck to help keep food on the table, your family's perception of you shifted permanently. Now, to be clear, I'm not romanticizing those days, and I certainly don't want to be sent off to war. But those experiences, as heavy and traumatic as they often were, created an undeniable division in a person's life. You knew you were an adult because your entire community explicitly told you so and treated you accordingly from that day forward. Eventually, the Industrial Revolution shifted that rite of passage toward your place in the modern economy. By the time our parents were coming of age, being an adult was tied to clear markers: getting a steady job, buying a home, and starting a family. Because people could realistically pull that off in their late teens or early 20s. Turning 18 became culturally synonymous with starting your life. The problem is, that model doesn't match current reality. Today, finding a career-track job takes longer. Living with parents well into your 20s is common. Housing costs are absurd, and remote work means you can earn a living without ever leaving your couch. The cost of achieving traditional adulthood has skyrocketed much faster than wages, so those classic milestones keep getting pushed further down the road. As a result, people in their late 20s and 30s still feel like kids stuck in limbo. That explains part of the problem, but it's only half the story, and knowing it doesn't automatically solve anything. Even without formal ceremonies or easy economic milestones, previous generations were still forced to grow up simply out of necessity. Life demanded self-reliance, whether you felt ready or not. That's the element we've quietly lost. Modern convenience has made life so comfortable and streamlined that you rarely have to push past your comfort zone to survive. Everything is pre-packaged and handed to you, leaving you with little to do except consume it. While the loss of traditional rites of passage makes growing up trickier, we've also steadily outsourced the everyday challenges that used to build basic life skills. Think about what used to happen when a young guy moved out on his own. He had to figure out how to cook basic meals or starve. He had to learn how to do his own laundry before he ran out of clothes. He had to navigate a grocery store on a tight budget to keep himself fed. If he wanted a social life in a new town, he had to risk awkwardness and initiate conversations with strangers. And if he wanted to date, he had to muster the courage to ask someone out face to face, knowing full well he might get rejected on the spot. None of those things were comfortable, but every single one of those micro-challenges subtly built competence and self-assurance. Today, almost all of those hurdles have been engineered out of existence. You don't need to learn to cook because a delivery app will bring hot food to your door in 20 minutes. You don't need to plan meals because pre-portioned ingredient kits arrive in a box. You don't even need to develop a spatial sense of your own city because a voice on your phone guides every turn. And you don't have to risk in-person rejection to meet people because you can just swipe through profiles like a digital catalog, letting an algorithm curate your social life. All the minor friction that used to force personal growth has been systematically smoothed over in the name of convenience. And while that convenience feels great, we have to recognize the trade-off. Every task you delegate to an app or service is a tiny bit of independence and capability you never get the chance to develop. There's an even deeper issue here beyond just practical life skills. We've largely shifted from creators into pure consumers. Most of our free time is spent digesting things other people made, scrolling through media feeds curated by someone else, or playing video games set in worlds designed by a studio. When your entire existence centers on consumption, you're essentially living in a reality constructed entirely by others. You become a spectator in a world tailored to keep you scrolling, watching, and spending. You don't actually own any part of that experience. You're just a guest in someone else's house. And just like a child, a guest always has to operate within someone else's rules. That dynamic is precisely what feeds the feeling of being an imposter in your own life. To actually feel like an adult, you have to transition from being an observer to an active participant. Now, let's be realistic. You're never going to be in absolute control of your life. Nobody is. The economy, your background, your health, and plain random luck are mostly outside your control. But the feeling of control doesn't come from mastering everything. It comes from taking action instead of passively waiting for things to happen to you. It's about finding a balance between rolling with the punches and maintaining enough intentional direction to keep moving forward. The philosopher Alan Watts talked about this dynamic using the idea of rigidity and wiggles. The wiggles represent flexibility and adapting to life's flow, while the rigidity provides the structure that holds everything together. Going with the flow is fine, but that structural element, taking ownership of your decisions, is what actually makes you feel like an adult. Think about the people you know who genuinely project real maturity. They make decisions, step up, and accept whatever outcomes follow. They have a general sense of where they're heading. They handle their own messes instead of looking for someone else to fix them. And their lifestyle reflects their own choices rather than societal expectations. Every single one of those traits stems from the same habit. They are actively writing their own story rather than letting life happen to them. Adulthood is ultimately the process of shaping a life you actually want, or at least making an honest attempt at it, rather than simply defaulting to whatever path was laid out for you. It's the difference between residing in a world someone else designed and gradually building one of your own. Developing your own values, your own perspectives, your own skills, and your own interests. Think of it like building a world in a sandbox game. If you jump into a server someone else spent years designing, it might look impressive, but it feels distant. You hesitate to touch anything, wander around for a bit, and eventually lose interest. But when you start a fresh world from scratch and build it up block by block, every structure means something because it reflects your own time, effort, and growth. Since modern culture no longer hands us a clear path into adulthood, you have to take that step yourself. You have to claim it. Which brings me to something that might rub a few people the wrong way. Part of being a mature adult is making choices and fully owning the results, good or bad. Honestly, seeing people dodge this is one of my biggest pet peeves. Too many people make choices, run into negative consequences, and then act completely shocked or victimized by the outcome. I had an uncle who got caught driving under the influence and spent years complaining about how much it ruined his life, completely glossing over the fact that he was the one who made the choice to get behind the wheel. That mindset is exhausting, yet complaining has practically become a cultural pastime. It's easy to look around and say, the system is broken, housing is unaffordable, the environment is in trouble, and the previous generation left us with the bill. So why even attempt anything? I get why that mindset is tempting. It completely relieves you of responsibility. If everything is stacked against you from the start, then failing isn't your fault, and you never have to put yourself on the line by genuinely trying. But here's the reality. Life has always been unpredictable and unfair. There was never a golden era of complete stability. Throughout history, people have been born into uncertainty, and they still managed to build meaningful lives anyway. Isaac Newton did groundbreaking work in physics and math, while cooped up at home, avoiding a devastating plague. Shakespeare produced some of his iconic plays, while theaters were shut down due to outbreaks. Much of the basic technology we rely on today was birthed during periods of global conflict by people who felt like their world was falling apart around them. None of those people had the luxury of ideal circumstances. They pushed forward and built things anyway, because creating is the only real alternative to giving up. So you have to make an effort. You have to try to carve out a path and build something real with your own hands, even on days when it feels uphill and uncertain. Trying doesn't guarantee success, but the effort itself is what separates a person who feels like an adult from someone who stays a passive kid, waiting for the world to fix itself on their behalf. In everyday life, that means stepping away from passive consumption and getting directly involved. It means going out on an evening when you'd rather stay home and scroll, or striking up a conversation with someone new instead of staring at your phone. It means taking risks that might lead to temporary embarrassment, like putting out a creative project, applying for something daunting, or showing up somewhere new where you don't know anyone. That discomfort is simply the admission price for feeling engaged and in charge of your own life. My main reason for sharing this is simple. I wish I had heard something like this back when I was younger, sitting in my room, feeling stuck, and waiting for life to magically begin. To wrap things up today, what is one small task or habit you've been outsourcing or avoiding that you could take personal responsibility for this week? Drop a note in the comments below. Your answer might give someone else the exact push they need to take a step forward in their own life. Thanks for hanging out today, and I'll talk to you all again soon.